Alrighty. Well, breakfast is coming, and I do enjoy South Indian breakfast. I was enjoying a lot, and in the last month, after the Rasayana of Chewamprash was complete, because this was just a 42-day or something Rasayana, the other one was longer. After it was complete, and they were giving me breakfast, and I was like, oh, I got the dosa. And a South Indian dosa, which is the soft one, not the big old crispy one I'm a fan of. So I'm going to go there, but I'll share. So my personal experience with meditation. And I think that coming in the autumn, I will probably share some, because that will be around 2016 is when I left the Corps. So that is what, 7 years? 16, 17? Yeah. And so that will be around 7 years since I left the Corps, around 6 years since I went to Spain. No. Anyways, we'll add 1 year to that. And around 6 years since I really began on this journey. So I've gone through lots of different modalities, dozens and dozens of modalities, and hundreds of experiences. A couple big ones. I mean, the darkroom is a big one, but I'm doing these things every month. And so I will share some of this and what I have taken away, and what I currently choose. But currently I'm choosing to focus on meditation, and I've experienced all of these different things. Hi, Baba. So for me, meditation came into the life, I believe it was around 2013. So this is 2023. So that's 10 years. Wow. We should do a little celebration. And back then it was using the Headspace app, I believe, which is an application for the phone. And if I remember correctly, it's like a 5-minute, maybe 15 minutes or something like that. And I think it's just kind of like following a tone or something. It's a very simple meditation. And back then meditation was very woo-woo to me, as far as, one, it's foreign, and two, there's these stories about it being like religious or whatnot, and I identified as Christian back then. And so like foreign religions were something that felt scary. And also I didn't really get it. And also it seemed quite difficult. Like I had a pretty unskillfully trained mind, very deep into alcohol and I was just very intense, I'm flying helicopters, I'm rock climbing, I'm jumping out of planes, I'm in really intense sexual experiences and things. And this is like, okay, sit still and do whatever it's doing. So I didn't really get it, but I had heard from enough people that I respected, such as Tim Ferriss and many of the people that he interviewed on his podcast, which that podcast, that brought a lot of positive things into my life. I'll share the link to it. I don't really ingest that much external information these days, besides very limited, and I don't really do podcasts that much, but for years that brought in lots of things, and so thank you, Tim Ferriss. And so I began doing very on and off these 5-minute meditations or whatever, and that probably lasted pretty much until I had a deployment, and I began doing a little more because I had free time. But then when I came back into life, it was that same, and I didn't really get it. It was a little bit nice to have some space, but otherwise didn't really get it until after I left the Marine Corps. After I let go of alcohol in the beginning, or at the end of 2017, and that next year after the MBA, I was so excited. This is the first time in my life, basically, I have the freedom to do fully what I want, which back then was to focus on business. But I was in this kind of life hacker, personal development sort of phase, and so I was learning from lots of people who have gone before me and what things are really important to them, and meditation keeps coming up for all these business leaders and things who are the people that I was looking at. This is a breadfruit tree. This will turn into like a round thing. It looks very much like the jackfruit that I showed, and there can be small jackfruits. Jackfruits aren't round. Breadfruits are pretty much round, but several times now over the years I've bought breadfruits thinking that it's a jackfruit, and a breadfruit's like, it's not something you can eat as a fruit. You need to cook it, and it's like a starch. It's interesting and nice, but it's not like a jackfruit. So I've given them away. So these business leaders and these people, they're saying meditation. So I start doing it more, and actually, very interestingly, and much love and appreciation, I was in San Diego, and I was listening to NPR, because back then I also listened to the news. I think that was the last year I listened to the news. So I guess I got meditation in some way additionally from that. It was talking about the VA, of all places, the Veterans Administration. And they were having some training on this type of meditation. So I said, oh, I used to be very much about like, I'm better than that, I'm cool, everything. But I said, let me see what they've got. And it was a nice and pleasant meditation. Eknath, Easwaran, an Indian man that came, and it's called passage meditation, where there are different positive passages, whether it's from the Bible, the Torah, from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Quran, from these like positive ones that millions of people have said over and over. It has good positive energy. You just repeat that over and over in the mind. And yeah, that was my first retreat. I think it was like a 3-day or something, and just 20 minute sits doing that. And I was like, yeah, I can dig this. It's starting to do. I was getting into the affirmations and whatnot, so it's doing this conditioning. So I did that, and then slowly I got into the more personal development, like I said, of the Joe Dispenza kind of visualizing the ideal future, or going into the imagining the past, but visualizing it as the ideal. So I would do that. Dr. Joe has some of those visualizations, which he charges money for. And that's kind of like one of those classic things that now, after getting out of the country, see these. There are some things that now, in the past, they would have seemed so natural to me, but now that I'm in places where the focus is not money, such as this place, as I've shared, this is obviously that they make money here, but he accepts many monks from the Ramakrishna order, which is not Buddhist. This is more of a, I won't even put a label on it. And, little or nothing to charge them, but the woman there, not charging. For me, for my stay, it costs money to stay in the kuti and get this special medicine and whatnot. And he charges me whatever I feel I can pay, because he knows that for years now, I'm not working, and I am grateful. I received some money from the VA for some different health issues, and I have some past investments that can cover my expenses if I don't give it all away. And so he allows me to pay whatever, which is really nice. To be in these sorts of places. And we compare that to, this is a pomegranate, so if you've ever seen a pomegranate plant, or have not, in Montenegro, pomegranates are growing everywhere. So this is even a spiritual place, where if we compare, like before I came to India, I was going to attend a different sort of retreat at a retreat center in the U.S., and it's a place that identifies as Buddhist principled and spiritual, but it's in that world of retreat centers and capitalism and whatnot. So some things changed, and I decided not going to be able to attend, and I contacted them some days before. But in the West we have policies, right? Like, this just doesn't meet my policy. Well, I mean, the policy is just created. can change it. Yeah, but this is the policy, and the policy is, well, you can't have a refund. And so, this place that is a proponent of the Buddha Dhamma, and Buddha says these things, are not meant to be paid for. Of course, we have to pay for expenses, but like the wisdom is so deep that it's invaluable. But they're not comfortable providing the refund, even though I didn't use the resource and it wasn't sold out. And then to come to here, and this is actually a for-profit business. It's not a spiritual place, but it's a different culture. And so they do things a little bit differently. And he's willing to accept less, like over 3 times as much less than the other one was not willing to give me. And this is a place that he employs over 30-some employees. During COVID, for the last 2 years, they were closed. Really, I'm so happy for them and the abundance that's coming in now. But that's just, a little example of how things can be different. And that's another thing, as I was saying, with like, well, I don't mean any criticism, so I won't even go any further. Excuse me. So I was using the Dr. Joe's and the visualizations, and that seemed positive, but one thing that I discovered later with visualizations or this manifestation world and things, which I didn't get into as much, but the Dr. Joe was certainly about manifestation in his way, and like Tony Robbins, I've gotten benefit from him as well, but it's a lot focused on money and about like this kind of, or some sort of physical things. And it's also really focused on like wanting things to be different. And so if that doesn't come about, then at least for me, I was feeling lots of discomfort and anxiety, because I wanted to believe that this would happen, but it takes time, and I'm not saying it doesn't work in some ways, but it's focusing on lack and craving basically, whereas this meditation taught by the Buddha, there are many, 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 many types of meditations, thousands, who knows how many types of meditations. And I don't have very much experience with many of them. There are meditations that provide like very incredible abilities, really fantastic. I mean, these things that in the U.S. or I would read about as a youngster of these different sadhus or sannyasis or like, Hindu monks or babas or things who can do things like be in 2 places at once, or who can read people's minds, or who can use their bodies in different ways, or be, like naked in the Himalayas or things like this, or basically stop breathing, stop the heart beating. These are all real. These meditations can do really incredible things. The one that the Buddha teaches, again, is just for the focus of releasing suffering. And so, not saying, what he found is that this way, which I will share, it helps the mind to purify and stop these reactive patterns, and so stop identifying with things of saying, this is hurting me, this is, I want more, I don't want more, and then that mental suffering goes away. So that's very much different from kind of focusing on, I want things to be different, I want to manifest this perfect partner or this physical health or this financial abundance or whatever. And so it brings about a different energy, which I didn't recognize then because I didn't know anything about the Buddha Dhamma. But I recognized that like I'm feeling pretty uncomfortable and anxious because I'm given so much time in the morning to start my day by focusing on like this desired perfect world that I'm living in with a wonderful wife and $500,000 a month in cash. I was looking at some past goals that I made just in 2019. This massive thing, like, why would I want to have $500,000 a month in cash flow? Like, that has no attraction to me now. Not because I think it's bad, but just like, that seems like a lot of work and kind of pointless. So that's where I was. And then I was also studying neuroscience and this sort of psychology stuff and neuro-linguistic programming and different things like that. So I kind of cobbled together meditation. I came to India. First connection with the Buddha Dhamma. The Dhamma meaning is it's two M's. Dhamma, it means like the natural law, the law of nature. Like this is what exists, cause and effect. Plant the seed of this thing. This is a banana plant. If I plant the seed of a banana plant, I don't get a mango tree. This is just cause and effect. This is just the law of nature. And that's what he teaches. So my first connection with that was through a book called The Art of Living. And it's basically the Goenka Vipassana evening discourses, but including some question and answers with Goenka Ji and some other things. And those are based off of Buddhist teachings in some ways. And so that was my first introduction. Now this cat is really interesting. You'll see. That was my first introduction to the Dhamma, and it was like, wow, this is incredible, because it's very simple and crisp, but it's saying things that correlate with what I've learned, my basic understanding of quantum physics and neuroscience and things. Because the Buddha was able to take his mind so deep. So there are things that he said which were recorded from 2,500 years ago, that neuroscience and that quantum physics are identifying now, 2,500 years later. He did it with the tool of the mind. He did it from experiential, not from using an external tool. So reading that book, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And it really provides lots of hope too, because it was my first really this makes real sense about mental purification, of just be with these things. Don't react to them. Don't push them down. If the emotion of anger comes up, we don't suppress it. We don't repress it, because then we get all of these other disorders and things that come out. Then we get all kinds of different issues. But instead, we just be with it. We don't express it. If the emotion of anger comes out, I don't start yelling and fighting people. I just be with it and allow it to pass, because it's just a piece of communication. It's just a signal, just like the pain. If I suppressed the pain of the fire, my hand gets burnt, and now subsequently I can't use my hand. If I suppress the message about anger, it's sending some message. Now, if I don't even really need to know what the message is, if I have decided that anger is inappropriate. Hey, sweetheart. This cat has blue and yellow eyes, or greenish yellow. Hi, Daddy. Then I don't express it. I just be with it. And if I be with it, then it goes away. The message has been received and passed. If we think about it, an analogy, the Buddha used all kinds of similes. I'm not really sure what the difference is from simile and analogy, but one that I have used for this sort of thing is, if we think I think Harry Potter, the first Harry Potter, a book that I have read probably 10 times. I reread them all last year, which was the first time in a while. I really enjoyed them. But we think the first Harry Potter, he's staying at the Dursleys. Hey, sweetheart. And the letters are coming to say, hey, you've been accepted to Hogwarts. And Mr. Dursley keeps throwing them away. And so one day there's one owl that drops a letter. Then there's 2 owls that drop a letter. Then there's 5 owls that drop a letter. Then he takes away the mailbox, so they start sending them in through the doorway, and then through the fireplace. And all these letters are coming in. Letters, 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 because he didn't accept the letter. And so it keeps sending the message. And it's the same with these emotions. Something is happening. and we suppress it and we repress it, and so subsequently it just keeps coming, and it's strong because it has a message. It's not good or bad. It's not like trying to sabotage us or harm us. It's just a process that exists, an impersonal process that has come about over millions of years of evolution, or who knows what. We don't even need to know how it came about. It just exists. When emotions and things come, they're sending some message, and if we don't hear them, then they will keep coming and keep coming. And this is how we can have something that has happened for decades ago, and we're still feeling some strong emotion from it, because we've still not fully accepted the situation. And this is how psychosomatic, in my opinion, this is how psychosomatic occurs, where I forget what the percentage is, someone can Google, but I believe it's over 90% that currently medical professionals and scientists believe the amount of illnesses and disorders that we experience in this world is due to lifestyle. In other words, in some way due to the mind, whether that is like I am choosing to eat a lot because this is like an escape mechanism for something else that I'm suppressing and not handling, or it's something like I actually feel chronic pain. The body is actually manifesting this emotion into the feeling of pain. And so instead, when I just accept this emotion and I allow it to be there and pass naturally, then it goes away. And it may feel like it didn't go away because many of us we have maybe, who knows, many of these emotions that we have been suppressing, and it takes time and it takes skill to learn how to do it. This funny guy. This cat eats rice. Can you believe that? I've never heard of a cat that eats rice. I guess it's when we put it in milk, but still. And so it may feel initially in the beginning stages of meditation, doing this meditation, it may feel like, yeah, nothing's changing. I'm still, this emotion of anger is coming up and it's still so strong and there's nothing changing. I keep releasing it. But it just takes time. It's slowly. So that is a little of my journey with meditation. I discovered that book, but I was still doing the visualization sorts of things. And I connected with this darkroom, as I will share later when I do the timeline of darkroom. And that's kind of what I was doing. The first darkroom was this bit of visualizations and a little bit of this Dhamma that I had read from the Goenka and like neuro-linguistic programming and whatnot. Then a few months after coming out of the darkroom, I connected with the Goenka Vipassana in person and had a first retreat and then 2 more retreats, and subsequently began practicing that daily. And I said I will take this as the sole practice and give this a year of focus and see how it's going. And I subsequently continued with that until I connected with this twin in last August of 2022. So there we go. That we have completed. And I will have some breakfast. Actually, let's see if we can see a little what breakfast is. Oh, it's a special. This is like a masala dosa. This is like a. So this is made out of. I think it's a millet, which. Growing up, I gave millet to the parakeet, but I had no idea that we can eat millet. And millet's actually an incredible superfood. I think quinoa is kind of like a millet, but there are many different kinds of millet. Some reason we don't have them in the U.S. I've never seen millets being eaten, but in India they eat millets and all kinds of different things. Peace.